Hi, this is Peter Ross. I'm back again for Ogmore Anglian Society, Peter Ross on fly tying. Today I want to tie the egg laying spinner. Now this is tied clink hammer style. You will notice that the hackle is wound horizontally, sort of parachute style, which is very good type of tie-in for a fly. This particular type with on this style hook was designed by the Norwegian Van Hans Klinken. I took to this fly because it's had some of my, it contains two of my favourite materials. The hare's ear mask, which is the body, which is ribbed. I'll come to that. I'll show you that as we go along. And the peacock herl, which is in the thorax. Now these are two very good patterns which somehow seem to have a very good attraction for trout. And this particular fly, designed by Hans van Klinken, was originally for trout and grayling, but he's found it's also taken salmon. It's a dry fly. It's taken salmon and in some cases the odd sea trout down on the River Teivi near Kenarth. The profile of the fly is intended to represent an egg-laying, up-winged fly, a spinner as we call that, returning to the river to lay its eggs. And the general idea is that the top part of this hook, which is sort of flattish, as you can see, is above the water and the tail dips in, and you notice the little egg sac, the green egg sac, which is nylon. I make that out of burnt nylon, which I will show you in a moment. So it sits on the surface with its tail underneath in what we call egg-laying mode. It is effective in both rivers and lakes. And I just want to tell you as we go through the tying of this fly, that in different colours and without the egg sac, it can represent an emerging caddis or an emerging up-winged fly, just emerging, not egg-laying. It's also very good in tied in black. Okay, I'm going to start now, so I'll just put the fly there. Now, before I start, I just want to show you a little tip. Just bear with me a moment. I want you to notice that I've threaded onto this silk a little nylon tube. Can you see that? I threaded it on and I push it down onto my... It doesn't interfere with anything I do while I'm tying. And we will come to that. This can be an advantage tying this particular fly, any clink hammer fly, but also a normal standard dry fly with a collar hackle. But you will see how we come to that. The other thing I want to show you, well, I'll come to it. I was going to demonstrate the how I make the egg sac, but I'll do that as we go through it. Okay, we just started the silk. I'll nip off the surplus silk. And the first item to be tied in is the wing post. The way I do the wing post, I go sort of halfway down the shank like this, and I come back up to about there. You'll get your proportions as you go through it. That may be one wind too far. Now, something about this hook. I just want to tell you about this hook. It's a special hook. You see the shape of it? It's a special hook designed with this flat top. And it is really, it's a partridge. This is the model. It's a partridge and it's a size 14. But for a 14 it looks big, because hooks, the size is determined by the gape of the hook, not by the length or the shape of the shank. So that's something to tell you. It looks too big for a 14. but I can assure you it is a 14. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is put on the stalk, the post to take the hackle. And I just use some orange floss. I use orange. You can use any floss you like really, but orange is easier to see because this fly sits very low in the surface film, and it can easily be it can be difficult to see. Tie it on like this, figure of 8. Like that, and I just reverse it so I get it standing up like this, and I put a few winds around it to secure it, and I wind around. I'm now going to form the post, which can be a little bit fiddly, but it's worth doing. I am a bit restricted with the camera, so I want you to bear with me while I do this. I'm winding round to form the post. This is probably the most difficult part of this fly. Can you see what I'm doing? While I'm there, I now put a few winds around it to sort of secure it, and a few more around it like this. Good strong post does help. But it can be a bit fiddly. Okay, I'll go back down to the shank of the hook. And now while it's there, I'll just shorten this so it doesn't get in my way as I'm tying. And I'm going to put a touch of varnish around those windings just to stiffen them all up. And they will sort of dry as we do the rest of the fly. A little bit too much there, but that doesn't matter. Okay, now the egg sac. The green egg sac at the tail, right at the back end, which the fly is using. I've got a piece of strong sea nylon here, a greeny one, and I use one of these tea lights, and I just dip the end in, not completely in the flame, just to, can you see it melting? You see that? Forming that egg, forming that end, just like that. That's how we do it, just to show you again. I'll do the other end. See the light? See the nylon? See it melting? Just a bit of heat like that. And this is going to be the egg sac. Okay, I'll put that there. I blow this out. I don't like a lighted flame around. And if any youngsters are watching this, for goodness sake, get some supervision from your parents or someone to help you. This is the egg sac, and I'm going to tie this on next, okay? The egg ball, whatever you want to call it. So it's going to be right down on the bend here. So I tie it in like this. Just take it down. You can judge where it's going to be. It's a bit long, so I draw it through a bit. This is a special hook called a clink hammer style hook. Now you see the egg ball there? The egg sac? That's what I was trying to achieve. I'll just give a few more winds to secure things while I nip off this thick nylon surplus here. Okay, so we've got the post and we've got the egg sac. I'm now going to put on a rib. And the rib I'm using is red Flexi Floss, which does make a nice rib. So I'm going to tie that in up here and take it down. A little bit lively to tie in sometimes. That's okay. Let's see what I'm doing. So that's the rib in. The body. One of my favourite materials, you've heard me say, is from the hare's mask. This is the face off the brown hare. I've cut it down to make it easier to store in my box. And I pluck out the fur. You can cut it off. I've got some I keep in a little box here, which I've already taken out. Before I dub it on, got to make sure I've got some wax on the silk. It helps it to stick. And I start to dub on the hare's mask. With all dubbing, don't overdo it. Go careful. If you want a thick body, give more wines. Don't put more on. A little bit of moisture helps. This is a lovely material. It really is. It's a natural material, and it does work well on lots of flies. Okay. Touch more. And I go up to the thorax area. Touch more. I will be putting a thorax on, so it doesn't matter too much. So that's our body, and now I'll rib it. And I'm going to rib the opposite way, which is the way most ribs go. This secures and strengthens the body. Little bit of restriction with the camera. Normally I whip around with this silk, but it's going okay. Always a little bit harder when you rib the opposite way, because your silk, which you're using to secure it, is trying to push it back the way it came. I'm just going to ensure that's down nice and firm. Okay, so now we've got the body done. I'm going to now put in a hackle. I've already selected a badger hackle, one of my favourite hackles. This is it. It's from a saddled cape. I'm going to clear off the rubbish on the bottom. Ready to tie it in. And I'll be leaving a pretty good stalk, because the stalk plays a little part in tying this down. Now I'm going to tie this in, and I want you to note I'll be tying it in, but I'll be leaving a little bare section at the bottom to go up the post, so the hackle will be standing up. So first of all, I'll just tie it down like this. And then it'll go up. So I'm just getting my proportions right there. Now I'm going to take it right back. Now stand it up. That's why I left the bare part at the base, because I want that now to go around the post. When I wind this hackle, I'll be winding down onto the shank. I'm going to nip this stalk off, which is getting in my way a bit. I'll finish winding down. And the hackle will be wound down as well. Now, just in that situation, I'll be holding things for a moment and I'll put on the thorax. Not a very big thorax, so 2 pieces of peacock herl will do this. 2 pieces like this. I get the tips lined up. The tips are always brittle, so we get them off. And I tie this in. Now this will form the head and the thorax. Just drawn back a little bit. You can see I've got one straight piece of. Okay. And I wind this thorax around like this. To me, this certainly adds attraction to the fly. To all flies, I think, a thorax is certainly very nice. I've secured it there. Tidy up a bit by the eye. Okay, now this hackle, I'm going to wind it. It doesn't matter really which way you wind it, but this is what I'm doing. And I just wind now down on towards the shank. In theory, each wind should go below the previous one. So that's it. I'm right down there now. Now, securing, this is where you can often get a bit of difficulty. You see, I'm holding pretty tight, and I give a turn like that to secure it. Now, I'm going to nip off this surplus hackle. Like that. And I now take the silk back, try to clear the eye, and while it's in that position, you now see why I'm going to use this little bit of plastic. If you watch what I do, I slide it up along the silk over the head like that, and that keeps the eye clear for me to put on my whip finish. It distorts the hackle a little bit, but that can be pulled back into position in a moment or two. Here is the whip finish. One wind, 2 winds, 3 winds are enough. Dubbing needle into the loop, draw it up, cut the silk, remove the little tube, which I will replace on my holder shortly, And now I'm going to varnish the head. Leave everything in that position for the time being while I just varnish the head. Just like that. That's enough for now. Tomorrow I would probably come and put some more underneath. Now that varnish is drying and I would normally wait a little longer before doing this. But this is a demonstration that I want to try and finish. I now get this hackle back to where it should be. And the post, it's only here for vision, so that it's easier to see the fly when it's on the water. So I'm now going to cut that to where we think it should be. You can call it a wing if you like, but it's a post. And that's it. Now, you can position these, as I say, it's pretty robust fly. Draw it into position there. Make sure the eye is clear, either with a feather or with the needle, as I've just done there. Now I'll try to show you the profile of the fly from underneath. You see the type of thing? Another view of it, same fly. That's it. Okay, thank you for watching that. I just want to say briefly that you won't find this fly in any pattern book. It's one that has been developed locally and is proved very good. The other thing to tell you, the difference between a clink hammer and a normal parachute hackle. A parachute hackle fly is curved down. The clink hammer style hackle is curved up, a bit like a dinner plate pointing up. So this fly has been well proven and tested. I don't normally tie flies that are, I tend to do traditional well-known flies, but if they've been developed locally, have got developed a good reputation and have been tested. And I can assure you, this fly has been tested to destruction. I'm sure you'll do well with it. Okay, thank you for watching.